Hello, welcome on board the Boeing 747-8. There's not a lot to see at the minute, so I think we'll get some lights on. A battery switch, dome light, and let's connect up some external power and then we can talk a little bit about this flight. Ground connections. Request the external air and the ground power. I will connect both of those sources. Alright, so that's a little bit better. So you can see we're in the 747-8. We've got the EFB down on either side. We've got more modern displays than we've got on the 400. Everything looks a lot crisper. And we've got digital thingy-me-doos on here. Outside view, we are an American Airlines plane. Don't ask why, because we're flying from Beijing to Manchester today. We're an American Airlines plane because that is the plane that I landed here on yesterday. So there's no other air traffic around because we're connected to VATSIM. There we are, and we don't have a flight plan filed at the minute, so let me pick up the flight plan. So this is my previous flight, so we'll fetch it from the server, and no plan was found. Well, this isn't a scripted video, so on the other screen I will quickly pre-file the flight. It's because I've pre-filed it as AAL516 and I'm only AA516. So let's quickly reconnect. Flight plan, fetch, done, and file it. Apologies for that. So first things first, we've got GSX, so I'm going to request that we get the aircraft catered and fueled up. I'll request the catering and we'll get it from China Southern and China Southern Catering. And we should probably connect up the jet bridge as well. Cool. Okay, I'm just going to empty out the previous payload and check on the fuel. There's currently 18 tons of fuel left on from the previous flight. That's fine, we'll take that as a starting point. So the first thing we need to do is tell the aircraft what we're going to do. So we go on our center screen on pre-flight and we get our main FMS. This is all fine, so we're going to initialize at ZBAA. We're at gate 501. I don't know if that'll be in the database. No, it's not. So let's get the position from GPS. Going to align and nav the IRSs. And meanwhile we enter the route. So we have to enter the route and the flight number in order to get the data link to work. We tell it we're going from Beijing to Manchester, and we are AAL516, and that's it. So then we just leave that there. GSX is requesting that we open the doors. I'm going to open L2, and I'm going to open these two doors so that we can cater. So now it's just a case of waiting for this to come into life. Copy the GPS position. That's it. Okay, so you have to go out of it and then go back into it. So it's copied the flight number, it's got the origin and the destination, it's got today's date. You can change that if you're going to be taken off the day after, like if it's coming up to midnight. So it wants to know our departure time and our estimated en route time. So I'm going to get those from the EFB. So I've exported the route already through SimBrief, and I've got it to put the PDF into documents. So this is our previous flight, which was from San Francisco to Beijing. I'm going to go back to the menu and initialize a new flight, and then go on documents, and we are looking for this one, which is the 9th of November, Beijing to Manchester. And we can expand that, and then there's our flight plan. Make it fit the width. Now we can page down, and this gives us our flight details. So we're estimated off at 1600 Zulu and a flight time of 10:35. So now back on here, estimated time of departure is 1600 Zulu, and estimated time en route is 10:35. That's block to block. I've missed that message that just popped up, but I'm guessing it was the caterers telling us that they're done. So close those doors, and I'll call for fuel shortly. So we need to put our estimated time, we need to put our 2-letter airline ID, which is AA, and a 3-letter doesn't do it. And then our ATC flight ID, which is our VATSIM ID, is already filled in, which is AAL516. But our current fuel on board, and this just tells us that the data link is active. And on the next page of that, that's where you get all of your times. Right. The next thing to do, I'm going to put the front page up to the top here. Oh yeah, so once we've set up the data link, then we can request the route through the data link, and it's brought up the route here. So I'm going to request that. It takes a minute to come through. And the route is uplinked. So load. There we go, so that was what we had on the flight plan. The first point was YV. We end up at Tilney. Yep, there's Tilney. This is our whole route, so we don't have to type any of that in. So I'm just going to activate that route and execute it. The next thing to do is to tell the aircraft what we're going to be carrying weight wise, so that is on performance, and then on weight and balance. And this is the clever bit. If I click on transfer, it shows me the screen across the other side, so I've got the flight plan in here now. Now we don't have the option to go up and down it. They can only do that on the other side, but at least we can view what the other guy is looking at. So I already know, because when I filed the flight, that we've got 467 passengers, because that was the flight as I set it up. So show the keyboard, and I'm going to enter 100 because 467 passengers is all of these points full. Enter. One thing that I keep doing is showing the keyboard and then thinking that this is the button to exit the keyboard, but it's not. This is the button for to type in using your actual keys. So yeah, I'll get rid of that and then hide the keyboard. We're telling it that we're going to have a full load of passengers. This is the flight envelope, which I'll look at in a sec. That updates itself all the time. And then I'm going to tell it what cargo we're going to have. So our zero fuel weight should be 274.5 tons, and with the cargo that was preset from the last flight, it's heavier than that. So clear all this out. Oh no, it's not, I was looking at the wrong thing. So 261. If we just have the passengers and no cargo, then we would be 261 tons. So we want to add 13 tons. So the aircraft is nicely balanced straight down the middle of the centre of gravity at the minute. So I'll probably add half in the forward and half in the aft. So go to the keyboard, click in the box, and let's have 6,000 kilos in the forward and 6,000 kilos in the aft. That takes us to 273. Alright, let's make them 1,500 and 500 in there, and that takes us to 274. Okay, 100. So now should have 274.5, and if we had this configuration we would have 274.5. So I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do now is request the fuel in, and then once the fuel truck actually turns up, we can send this data to the aircraft, and then they'll actually load in the fuel, and we'll just have to wait for GSX to do that. Just to double check these weights, the taxi weight will be 426, so we can check that against the flight plan. And that's what we haven't done yet. Told it how much fuel we're going to have. We've only told it how many passengers we're going to have. So we go on fuel. We go on fast fuel, and then we just tell it what the total amount of fuel is that we're going to have on board. And the total amount is 124,121 kilos. So we put in 124,121 kilos. We complete that, and then that makes a distribution around all of the tanks. It's still got the data from the last flight of the taxi out fuel and the trip fuel. The taxi out fuel is 907, which is correct. and you can see that the graph's gone haywire and we've got yellow things, which yellow things are not good, and that's because it thinks we're going to burn. This is the fuel from the last flight, so I'm just going to tell it that we are going to burn 102,076 kilos. 102,076. Oops, you have to click back in the box. 102,076 kilos. Enter that. Alright, so the graph is back down the center line again. So our takeoff weight is quite near the maximum that we're capable of. Our landing weight looks to be what's limiting this flight, so we're going to be landing at pretty much our maximum landing weight, and that's because we're very heavy on cargo and passengers. The zero fuel weight is not much below. Oh, this is the landing weight here, sorry. And this is the maximum zero fuel weight, so yeah, there's a little bit of a gap, probably about 20 tons between the maximum. It's the exact figure there. It's that 18 tons, so yeah. Okay. Too much talk. We're still waiting for the fuel truck. Let's double check these figures. There we are. Let's double check these figures. So we've got a takeoff weight of 397,771 and we've got 39777. Yeah, so these weights are correct. A landing weight of 295,669. Landing weight of 295,695. Alright, so I'm happy with those figures. So as soon as the fuel truck turns up, we just press send to aircraft, and then that'll load in the fuel, the passengers, and then we can just use GSX to do everything else. Okay, so back on the FMC, we need to do our perf init. And I'm going to give it the figures to go in here. So our fuel, I'm going to tell it what the fuel will be, which is 124.1. Zero fuel weight will be 274.5. The reserves will be 12, say 13 tons of reserves for the flight down to Heathrow. Initial cruise altitude of, this is Chinese figures, so 980. It's filed it on my VATSIM flight plan as 32,100 feet. So that must be what 980 meters is. I'll just check that on the other screen. Yeah, that's right. So 32,100 feet is our initial cruise. Cost index of 125. Okay, please use the refueling system to refuel. We'll send that data to the aircraft. And that's sending it to the actual aircraft, it's not sending it to the FMS, so this is why we still need to put all the information in the FMS. So that page can complete now. And I like to set step size to 0. We've got some step climbs, so at Cerner we go from 321 to 320, and that's because we're leaving Chinese airspace. At Babta we go to 340. Oops. 340 step, then S on the end. At Irusa we go to 360. At Tor we climb to 380. And at Nateb we go back down to 370. Nateb is Newcastle, where I'm from. What do we need to do now? The aircraft's fueling. I should have flicked on the standby power before I flicked on the external power. Let's arm the emergency lights. We've got pumped air coming in. Nav lights. Oops, nav lights are already on. Yeah, we've got nav lights. There's the fuel truck. What's that thing? Is that how much fuel he's got left on board? Yeah, there's it. Oh, it's gone down. Any air traffic? No. There is a lot plane flying over shortly. It isn't shown here yet. Okay. So the next screen was the takeoff performance. It's still got the airports in again from the previous flights. I'm going to copy the FMC data. Actually, let's put in the departure on here first. We're going from 36 right, and if I can remember the departure off the top of my head, I think it was the YV32D, but we can double check that on this side. There it is, 36 right, YV31D, so I was wrong, 31D. So if we get the FMC data now, it's got 36 right. The conditions are currently dry. I've got the weather up on the other screen. It's 4 on here, but it's actually just increased to 5. The winds, how on earth do I convert meters per second to knots? I think there is a thing for that. Speed. Meters per second to knots. We want 2 meters per second is say 4 knots. Quite a simple conversion. The wind is from 360 at, click again, 360 at 4 knots. QNH is 1025. Takeoff weight will be 397.7. 397.00. We want full takeoff thrust, optimum flap. There's no clouds about, so we'll leave the anti-ice off and we'll leave the aircon on. Now that everything's filled in, I can calculate, and then we get our it automatically picks up the center of gravity from the weight and balance page. So that gives us our trim. It wants to do a flap 10 takeoff. It will be a full thrust takeoff. At the minute there isn't a derate option. Accelerating at 1500 feet, rotating at 169 knots. So let's tell the FMS that we're going to do that. Do it like that. So flap 10 departure. Full thrust takeoff. The CG is 21.5. Don't know if we need to tell it that. Select 21. Runway 36 right. Speeds are 156, 169. It's slightly different. I think it takes the wind into account because we haven't told this the winds. And 186. V2. That 201 is V2 plus 15. Next thing that we can look at is the terminal charts. And the first time you click on it, it asks for your login. Since I'm already logged in, I just have to confirm it. And there we go. So this is the chart that was loaded on my previous flight. And it's still got all of the previous San Francisco. This was our alternate from a flight about 2 flights ago. So I go on route setup. I get it to use the airports from the FMS and complete. And it will delete the clips, that's fine. So we've got Beijing, Manchester, and then we've still got random airport in the Caribbean. Can I get rid of that? Can't remember how we change it. Complete. Oh, that's it. Show alternates. And then I guess we just delete that out. Complete. Yes. That's it. So we've got rid of that now. So for Beijing, we've already got the airport chart loaded onto the clip. And where it's stand 501, which is down here, facing to the west. You can just zoom it in and move it around with your mouse wheel, which is very cool. So I can go back, I can edit the clip for Beijing, and I want to tell it our departure. So this is it's the minute it's selected on all charts, but there's loads and loads. There's like 10 pages of them for a big airport like this. So I'm going to select the departures. And it was the YV. There's still 5 pages of departure. It was the YV31D. YV31D. We can tick it and add it to the clip, or we can just preview it. Well, that would just be a preview so that you can check whether it's the right chart or not, which it is. It's got the takeoff from 36 right, which is actually the center runway, and then a right turn up to YV, which is Tangheco, where we have to be above flight level 128. So that is the correct chart. So I'm going to tick the box, I'm going to complete, and now we've got the airport chart and the actual departure chart. So after takeoff, it's a heading of 359 and above 128, so we can just check that on here. We've got 359, an intersection, and then to YV above 12,800 feet. And then it's got a discontinuity, but I think they're actually both the same place. Yeah, those two are both the exact same place, so I'll just join them together and then it'll skip straight. There we are. We've got YV and then we've got PIDOX. And there are no other height restrictions on the takeoff. I'm going to set this straight up to 321. 359 on here. Turn on the flight directors. We're still fueling. Oh, we finished fueling, that's good. We've got our speed, our heading and our altitude set. QNH was 1025, high pressure. Have the logo light on as well. There we are, it's better. Make some panel lights. Okay, so there's a departure. Another cool thing we can do, we can click on airport and then we can zoom the range right in, and there is Beijing Airport. So it even shows you the runway that we're going off on, the purple line, and it labels it 36 right. If we look on here, we can see the names of the taxiways, so it'll probably be Tango 4 and then Golf down to the end of Golf. We can double check that against this. We're parked on this corner, we go along Tango 4 until we hit Golf, and then we go south on Golf until the end, and then there is runway 36 right. For departure. I'm happy with that. And the only other thing that we need now is passengers. Which they are actually loaded on anyway, because I've done it through sending the data. At this point I could request GSX to load the passengers, but it takes an awful long time. 467 passengers to walk through that air bridge, plus 2 big loads of cargo as well to go in. So I'm not going to load them through GSX, we're just going to cheat a little bit and assume that, that they've actually got on board the aircraft. On our departure plan, we were due to push back at 1600 and it's 1545 now, so we wouldn't actually have time to board the aircraft neither. So let me just think what is the next thing that we need to do since we're not boarding passengers. We're 15 minutes to push, so I'll switch on the APU. Most of the systems are similar to the 747-400. One of the cool things is that you don't need to have a free power source when you want to close your cargo doors. Not sure if it's the same on the cargo aircraft, but I guess it is. We can actually click on doors and we can close the 3 cargo doors, and even though there's not an unpowered bus, cargo doors will still close. You might be able to hear the APU coming on. Okay, so I've never flown this aircraft online before. And so I've never used the radios before, but the radios are also different. So you just, rather than twiddle with the knob, you just do that and then move that from standby up to actual. And then hopefully, yeah, vPilot is tuned in now on 122.8. And it's the same with the TCAS. So if we look over to the TCAS, find a better view of that. Again, you just punch in the numbers and the knob's different. You've got standby, then transponder, then you've got TA, then TARA, and the final one is to switch off the altitude reporting. So you don't turn it all the way around, you turn it all the way around, then bring it back one to have TARA. Seatbelts on. I'm just sorting out Project Fly on the other screen. Alright, so Project Fly is set up, and I always like to use FS Captain because it saves the flight. I'm just going to quickly fill in some details. You can just bear with me for 1 minute. Sorry, I'm just giving it some time.
Captain, we're ready for boarding.
Yeah, ready for boarding. But I'm pretending that you've already boarded, so it just wants me to give it some power so it knows that the parking brake is set. It's done. Commit to the flight. Okay, right, so FS Captain is all set up. So I think we're nearly there. There is the system on this plane of checklists, which is the same as what it is on the 777. So pre-flight checks, oxygen, yeah, we'll assume that that's done. The flight instruments, we've already checked those. Before start checks, flight deck door closed and locked. Yep. The MCP, we've set the V2 plus 15. We've got heading and we've got altitude set. Takeoff speeds are entered. The pre-flight on the CDU, I think we've finished that. Everything's pretty much there. Oh, we haven't got the winds yet. But the minute we're estimated to land with 28 tons of fuel. I'm sure if I get the winds, that'll reduce down quite a bit. Check the wind data. Yeah, that all looks correct. It gives me a descent forecast as well, but I'm just going to purge that. So I would say that the CDU pre-flight is done. Actually, one thing on the departure, there are mountains ahead and we need to have a climb gradient of 5.3%. The aircraft is really heavy, quite near its maximum takeoff weight, and I don't know whether we'll be able to achieve that. So just to be sure, I think that I will tell the CDU in the climb, rather than go for 356, just to go for 282, which is the max angle. And we'll get it to do that until we've passed YV, this altitude restriction here, and then we'll let it go up to its speed. CDU pre-flight is complete. Trim should be 6.9 units. This is one thing that I haven't figured out. You can't actually trim the aircraft until you've got power on the center hydraulics. Maybe we have to do this. Oh yeah, that does it. So I'm looking at it on a zoom, but there we are. So we've got 6.9 units of trim now. Switch those back off. And these should all be zeroed. Takeoff and taxi briefing. Well, we've got the taxi briefing, which is quite straightforward, and the takeoff briefing. Let's just double check if there was anything else on that chart. This is good. It gives you we need to be climbing at 250 knots at 1,342 feet a minute in order to meet the gradient. But at 280 we probably want to be doing about 1,500 feet a minute. That's quite handy to know. It also gives you a metric conversion. Okay, fine, so that's done. Beacon switch can go on now, since we're going to start the engines. We're still on external power. We'll go over to APU power. We'll disconnect all of the externals. Release the ground power, release the ground air, remove the chocks. Doors should be closed and armed. They're all closed and now they're armed. We want hydraulics on AUX. On. Just run through this panel. I'll lose the dome light. Fuel. We haven't done the fuel pumps. I don't really like the checklists that it gives you because it doesn't cover everything. I prefer to use a printed checklist, but if you don't complete this checklist then it'll bug you and it'll say you haven't done it, and I haven't figured out how to stop that yet. So so we've got doors. What are we doing? Fuel. Okay, so fuel. We've got like 20 something tons in the outboard. You get two separate figures now, 40 odd in the inboard. So we want to have all of those pumps on, but not the center. And these open, so that looks correct to me. Not the center and not the stab. Window heat, switch on. There's a pack fault, I'll get rid of that. Packs are off, which is fine. Because we need the air for the engines. Alright, I'm happy with that. Let's disconnect the jetway. And then I'm going to request a pushback from GSX, which will put our nose to the left. Alright, let's do that then. Fair for pushback. That doesn't give me the option for left, so let's just go straight back. This is like some freeware thing that I've downloaded, I think off AVSIM, for Beijing. So we've got all of the correct dates and everything, gates and everything matches the charts, but it is quite like a simple sort of scenery. That's fine. Oh, we probably need to
Hello, Captain. We're ready for pushback.
tell everyone that we're pushing back as well.
Locking gear. Departure check completed. Bypass pin inserted. Release parking brakes. Commencing push. All engines cleared. Start at will.
Okay, so we're on to engine mode. Check the pressure. Yeah, we've got duct pressure. Okay, so I'm going to start engine 4. And it's auto start, so you just pull the knob and flick the switch. And it tells you that it's doing an auto start, which is nice. And once it's started, then that changes to purple, and it says that the engine's running. The engine 1 at the same time. You can see on the ECS that it shows the air going into the engine. How's this pushback going? We probably want to be taxiing left and then right down here so we can push in.
Set parking brakes.
Okay, not going to go any further. Okay, maybe we'll have to go right and then out and then down, but that's fine. Parking brake is set. Ah, okay, it doesn't go purple, it goes green. We've got engine 4 running, engine 1 is still in the auto starts. Engine 3. 1 is running now. And also do engine 2.
Unlocking gear. Tow truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed. Left is clear. Right is clear.
Brilliant. So we've got all 4 engines. Electrics look good. Well, let's
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of your passengers,
lose the APU.
we hope you enjoy the flight.
Get the hydraulics on. Taxi light. Axe
Ladies
on.
and gentlemen, please pay attention as we display the safety features and procedures.
Lose the
of
dome
aircraft.
light.
In the unlikely event of an emergency, please remain in your seats with your seatbelt fastened and your seats in the upright and locked position. In case of a drop in cabin pressure, breathing masks will
Sort out this lighting situation.
placed over your nose and mouth. If there is smoke in the aircraft during any
Better.
evacuation, the walkway emergency lights will lead the way to the exits, which are located here and there. In the case of an extreme emergency landing, you will be instructed to get into
There
the
we go.
position.
Should have done that much earlier on, really.
Placing your head between
Everything looks better now.
your hands over your head. In order to avoid interfering with the aircraft's navigational equipment, we ask that
Right, I'm just going to have a quick run through all the systems. So electrics are done, fuel is flowing, ECS is fine, flight controls, go left, go right, go up, go down, go rudder, rudder, hydraulics, fine, doors closed automatic, gear, fine, info doesn't do anything, right, stick that back on engine. Before taxi checks, the anti-ice should be off. It's all on auto, that's fine. Recall is just that the TCAS is off. I will stick that on. Ah, there it is. Just on transponder for now. Auto brake RTO, flight controls are checked, ground equipment is clear, checklist complete. So off we go. Basically we just want to exit behind. Why can we do that? I can't actually see. Very dark. Oh, missed it. Okay. There's the exit down there. All the technology, and they still make a mistake like that.
This is your first officer speaking. Welcome to Cockpit. We'd like to welcome everyone on board for our flight. Not anticipating any problems and expect to be arriving on time, but if something comes up, we'll let you know about it. For now, please carefully follow all instructions from your cabin crew, and let's all look forward to a smooth ride. We should be ready for takeoff soon.
Okay, so straight down here, then left on Golf. So we've still got the TCAS warning, but we have got the transponder on. That's fine. This is Yankee 1 here. So here's our chart, there's Yankee 1. So the next one should be Hotel and then Golf. There's Hotel. This place is really creepy deserted. Like, so when I landed here yesterday I had 100% AI traffic on and all of the runways were in use and it was really busy. Like the Langoliers now. Right, so this is our turn left onto Golf. One thing you can do on here is go on the menu on the charts and stick it on night mode. Very cool. This is Golf. These are the 3 entrances, so we can probably go on at Echo 1. Straight on. Get some speed going. And there are the things there. Echo 2, Echo 1, Echo 0. Right, so we've got the auto throttle and the flight directors, so I'm going to arm LNAV and VNAV now. Not sure why I'm taxiing so slow. I really should just put the throttles on a bit. Never mind. Right, so here are the turns. Echo 2, and then our turn here, Echo 1. So here we are. Let's decast on the go. Zoom out. Ah, there is the terrain display as well. I might leave that on because that could be quite handy since we're going to be flying over mountains and shit. I've never actually used it before, so yeah, let's do that. Alright then, landing lights on, strobe lights on, notify the crew. Let's just complete the checklist on here, which is flaps 10, which I haven't actually set. That's clever. Leading edge. Taxi.
Please notice that the lights have been turned off, as this is the normal procedure for a nighttime takeoff.
I'm also going to select the terrain radar mode. Wait for the flaps to go out to 10, let's put a message. Right, let's taxi forward. I'm going to request through FS Captain to break the 250 knot speed limit as well, so we'll get a better climb angle because we'll be clean. We should get a bing bong back shortly. Good.
On runway 36, right.
Air flaps 10 is set. Clear skies, no icing required. Let's do this. That was just a message to authorise me to break the 250 knot speed limit on FM Captain. Here we go. FMC runway distance.
80 knots.
We'll continue. What does that mean?
V1.
We'll have a look after we depart.
Rotate.
I think that anything that howls like that means that you're supposed to gear up. Anything that howls like that means you're supposed to abort the takeoff. But runway disagree. That my interpretation would be that it's something to do with like the scenery installation or something like that. So we'll disregard that one. Right, gear is up. Acceleration high, pitch down, lap 5. You really need to trim down a lot after you take off in this aircraft. One thing I found. Takeoff trim setting. Once you accelerate, it needs to be knocked right back. Lap 1. Laps up. And it looks like it's going 272 knots for the initial climb up to 10,000. We've cleared it through dispatch. FS Captain, so that's fine. That's a nice straightforward departure. Switch on the autopilot. We'll go through the checklist, which is flaps and landing gear are up. You can see that we're going nicely above the terrain there. This is a really cool thing. Alright, time for a spot of troubleshooting. I'm going to stick the checklist on here now and see if we can find out what that problem was. It said FMC runway dis. The airplane is not on the FMC origin runway when takeoff is attempted. Which is what I thought it was. We definitely were though. 36 right, yeah, we definitely took off from the correct runway. No question of it. So my guess is that is like a scenery issue, like maybe the scenery is slightly out of alignment or something. I hope that I'm right, because I will go back and review the takeoff.
We are climbing towards our cruise altitude. Please remain seated and keep your seatbelt fastened until the seatbelt sign.
There we are anyway, passing 9,000 feet. We should stick meters on really. We're passing 2,800 meters. So I did tell it to restrict the climb speed to 282 knots because that was our best angle of climb. But since we've cleared all of the terrain dead easily, I'm just going to remove that restriction. Oops, I'm just going to select Econ and execute. So now instead of being restricted to that speed, it's going to go for 356 knots. We've got 20 miles to be above 12,800. You can see that the mountains are still increasing, getting higher. We zoom out. Oh, that's cool. So we zoom out and you can see that it's still... and you can see... This is really cool. So there's the restriction and it looks like we're going to be just about on it at present. But once we hit this speed, then we're going to climb a lot faster. So that white line should go up. There we are, going right up now. That's quite an awesome little display there. I didn't think that it would be really necessary. I didn't think it would be like a useful thing, but it does give you a fair bit more awareness. Switch off the seatbelt signs now. Switch off the landing lights. We can leave the strobe lights on. If that warning had been like an engine fire or something else, then yeah, definitely would have stopped. But it looked from what the message was that it was just like a scenery issue. Stop tired pilots taking off on airport taxiways, I guess. I think we'll leave it there, since we're established nicely in the climb. I can't really think of much more to talk about. You've seen how we get the aircraft from cold and dark to set up with the route. The important features on the EFB, how to ignore a critical takeoff warning. So yeah, thanks for watching. I may well do another one of these when we come into land at Manchester in about 10 hours time. Till then, thanks again, bye.